Good evening and welcome to Health Quest. I'm Deborah Arneson, your host for tonight, and we have a great show for you. We have Erin Walsh Rodriguez, who happens to be my yoga teacher, even though I'm not there as often or as much as I'd like to be. But she is a phenomenal teacher, and we are here tonight to show you how to release your stress and your tension through yoga. So this is more of a teaching class. You are more than welcome to knock your shoes off and put on something comfortable, run real quick, and come on back, because we won't start for about 4 or 5 minutes. And learn how to do some really basic yoga postures that can really help stimulate your lymphatic system, help open up, your breathing, your organs and systems, and will help to exercise and nourish the spine as well. So Erin is here tonight. We're just going to introduce her a little bit and get down to the basics and talk about you for a minute. So thanks for being here, Erin.
Thank you. Thanks
You're
for
such a
having me.
phenomenal teacher.
Thank you.
I mean, I've been all over the world taking yoga, and I didn't enjoy it until I met you. Honestly. I mean, most of them are like, get into this position, hold and breathe, and it's torture. And you're also so very mindful about the body and what we're doing, and to take into consideration breath work. And you're gentle and you're soft and you're really conscientious, which I find really marvelous. So it's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
And I'm really excited for people to see how you do yoga and how you teach yoga. So how'd you get into this, by the way?
I got into yoga just, I started taking some classes. I had always been interested in yoga, and I was introduced to a teacher in Chicago through a friend of mine, and I really liked his style a lot, and so I took more and more of his classes, and I just really wanted to get deeper into the knowledge of yoga, into the philosophy and some of the texts as well.
That's wonderful.
So I began a teacher training program through Darren Friesen in Chicago.
And you're also going off to another program in Hawaii or someplace, right?
Right, yeah.
So this year?
Yeah, the American Vinyasa Institute. It's in Hawaii and in Utah.
How nice.
Yeah.
And that's how long of a curriculum for you?
2.5 years.
Wow.
After the 2.5 years of the teacher training, then it's an additional 1.5 years of therapist training. So to become a yoga therapist.
How
That's my goal.
fabulous.
Yeah.
And what does a therapist do?
A yoga therapist can work
With injuries
with
or
injuries,
illnesses?
with chronic illnesses, with emotional issues, with, I don't know.
Well,
just,
it takes the breath work into consideration and the body work and
Right.
the stretching, of course, and the musculature is exercised. It's a very passive way to receive healing.
Right.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
That'd be very good. Well, are you going to stay in Chicago and do that? Are you
Yeah,
gonna-
I'm going to stay in Chicago. Yeah.
Good, come be with me.
Okay.
Okay. So, how does adaptation, when you do yoga, serve the individual in your opinion? Because you do a lot of adaptation with your
Right.
clients.
The purpose of the yoga posture is to suit the body. A lot of people have this preconception that yoga is about attaining this perfect fixed posture that looks magnificent, and it's really not about that. It's about how the posture serves you, how it serves your body. And even oftentimes you can be doing yoga to fit into this specific form, and it can be going totally against what your body needs, and you can actually be injuring
Hurting
yourself.
Okay. So it's all about finding that adaptation that works for you.
Right.
Because I know sometimes I'll be doing a class with you and you'll say, okay, just turn your torso an inch to the left or the right, and it becomes a completely different posture.
Right.
So finding that which works best for your own physique and your own
Exactly.
tightness and your own problems.
Yeah.
What are the primary and secondary intentions, and why are they important?
Okay, the primary and secondary intentions are the intentions that the pose serves. So, for example, if somebody has a tight low back, doing a forward fold helps to release the low back.
Okay.
The primary intention of a forward fold is to release the low back. The secondary intention is to stretch from the pelvis down on the bottom half of the body, and from the torso up on the upper half of the body. And so what happens is a lot of times the low back is bypassed, and you're just getting the stretch in the hamstrings. And so there's ways to adapt the pose in order to serve the primary and secondary intentions of the pose.
And that's where the specifics of each person comes into focus.
Exactly.
When you ask them, what are your problems and what are we going to look out for today and what are your concerns?
Right.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, so tell me this. What are the primary complaints you see in most people most of the time?
Most complaints, I would say, low back. That's huge.
Why do you think that is?
It's from people's repetitive habit patterns, sitting all day in a chair at an office, standing all day, maybe waitressing or, jobs where you have to stand all day. And we're constantly putting so much pressure on our low backs. We're not using our back muscles. And
this gets flabby.
yeah, so the tendency is for the body to get out of alignment and
sway.
it just sway back. Or people who, slouch or do the opposite. And doing that repetitively every single day, standing in the same way, is going to eventually put pressure on the low back.
And everything starts to pull because this is such an engaged area. All these muscles
and
cross
it's
over.
the foundation of the body, this whole, sacral area, pelvic sacral area.
Okay. Now, the different poses you're going to share with us today, do they have a focus? Are they real basic? Are they good starter poses?
They're basic poses. They're starter poses.
Okay.
Anybody can do them, and even if you're an advanced practitioner, you can still come back to the basics and really focus on the body.
So our hope is that you will watch this and learn from Erin, and she's a wonderful instructor, so she'll walk you through this and just explain to you what you're doing and how to move it into a different position or do the adaptation for a different problem. So we'll start with this. And gentlemen, if you in the studio could put a nice soft music on, because I'm not going to be talking a lot. I think Peaceful Pond is in there, and number 1 would be my choice. Okay.
Okay.
So what is the first pose?
I would like to start with the breath, actually. And it's a very important part of yoga, and the breath and the spine are very connected. So with the inhalation, you're initiating by lifting the heart. The low ribs lift up and away from the pelvis, and it creates expansion in through the rib cage, expansion in through the torso. As well, the belly expands. On the exhale, you're contracting the abdominals, pulling the navel in towards the spine as if you're pressing your low back behind you, and through that the sit bones press down into the floor, so this creates stabilization and grounding. So inhaling, lifting the heart, feeling a back bend type quality, and then as you exhale, contracting the abdominals. So we're going to be doing that in every pose.
And the breathing is really important because it oxygenates the muscles and helps them to move and flex better.
Exactly, yeah, bringing oxygen to the muscles. So let's start with a pretty simple pose called Chakravakasana. And we're just going to come up onto the hands and knees. And we're going to focus on, again, using the inhale for expansion, lifting the chest up away from the pelvis, but without compressing the low back or the neck. So staying with the neutral spine, and then exhaling, contracting the abdominals, tucking the chin, elbows to the floor, chest to thighs, and hips to heels.
So as she's doing this, she's pulling her abdominal area in, she's tucking it in and tightening it. And as she comes up, she's extending it and letting the abdominal area drop a little bit. And as she breathes out, she tucks in again, so it's a tightening.
So from here, we'll add 2 more poses in. Downward facing dog. Again, here, exhaling, lifting the knees up off the floor, pressing the sit bones up towards the ceiling. And then as you inhale, straightening the arms and the legs, coming into upward facing dog.
And this would really greatly stimulate the lymphatics because we're working all the muscles in the upper back and in the torso area and throughout the chest. The breathing alone is enough to really get the lymphatics moving a little bit. So.
And the breath initiates the movement of the pose.
Listen closely because you can hear her breathing. for inhalation and exhalation. That just looks like a great stretch. How the upper back flexes. Erin, is there a certain number of times that it's beneficial to repeat a particular pose? A
Repetition
minimum?
is definitely very important because you learn to reprogram your unconscious habit patterns. So you create new ways of movement and neuromuscular technique, you know, becomes stronger by retraining your neuromuscular system. So repetition is very important. Yeah.
So at least I'd say what? You did 5, I believe. 5 downward dogs.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
I think I did 3, but
Okay.
3 or 4.
Okay.
But
It
Yeah.
felt great though, didn't it?
yeah, it feels good.
Makes me miss it.
Yeah. So if you have a lot of low back concerns, the upward facing dog with the toes tucked under how I just did it might be too much pressure on your low back. So I would recommend doing it on the floor, coming into cobra, and not coming up all the way so that you have that support of the floor.
Could you show that to us?
Sure.
Okay.
So you want to lay all the way down on the belly, looking to one side, and bring the forearm to the floor until the elbow touches. And pull the shoulders back, bring the legs and feet together, tuck the tailbone under,
You always put
Pressing the
your toes
pubic bone
together
down.
too, right?
Mhm.
Big toes.
and the tops of the feet pressing down into the floor.
So you're tightening the glutes up.
Right. Yeah. So you're not just tightening them, but you're actually tilting the pelvis
Forward.
forward so that the pubic bone presses down into the floor.
Okay.
Then staying firmly grounded on the floor as you inhale, lift the chest up, keeping the chin tucked, allowing the low back to do the work. So you're strengthening the low back. And then as you exhale, lowering down and turning your head to the opposite side.
And again, one of the things that Erin is mindful of is if it hurts, don't do it. You're not supposed to get into a position of pain, right?
Yeah, you should never be in pain. Now I'm going to alternate legs. So I'm going to inhale, lifting my right leg as I raise my chest. This will further strengthen the low back. And then both legs as I raise the chest. And then just taking a couple resting breaths here. And then coming back up onto the hands and knees for a counter pose to stretch the low back.
One of the other things that I find really wonderful is that Erin always does counter poses, which gives you the opposing stretch so you don't damage or hurt or overstress a muscle. The abdomen is tucked in yet again with every exhalation. So you move very slowly and purposely.
Right. You really want to be, again, connected with your breath. And you want the breath to initiate the movement, and the breath and the movement go together.
Can I tell you something really interesting? I was reading my journals over the holidays because I could catch up. And one of the interesting facts is that the air we're breathing has 16% oxygen versus 68 when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Wow. And because of that, we oxidize more quickly, which is one of the reasons they think cancer is so much on the rise in this world, because we're getting less oxygen. Yeah. And we also have not learned how to breathe. And the air we're breathing is not high quality, highly oxygenated air. So breath work is really, really important.
It is.
I mean, if for no other reason, that alone.
Right.
But it helps to portage and carry all kinds of nutrients throughout the body.
Yeah, it really helps to nourish the entire body, and I don't think that there's enough emphasis placed on the breath.
Right.
And I mean, I even notice myself doing it sometimes, like shallow breathing or holding my breath, and I'm like, you know, I just really have to connect back to that, you know, remind myself.
Women are notorious for holding their breath. That's what we do when we're stressed. We just bear down and take it.
Right.
Not good. Thank you. That was great.
Sure.
So what would you like to do next?
I'd like to do, it's actually another back bend, and this is more for the upper back, and this one's a standing pose. So usually what I do is just have people roll up to standing, just very slowly coming up.
Knees bent.
Yeah, knees bent. I'll start with the left foot forward. You want to make sure that the hips are square. The tendency is to turn them to the right slightly.
Okay.
And then also you want to, again, pull the navel in and tuck the tailbone under. This creates a bit of a stretch here and through the right psoas, the right front hip flexor. So I'm going to inhale, bending my front knee, squeezing the shoulder blades together and reaching the heart forward, and then just exhale, coming out of it. So again, doing it repetitively. The arms also help to create a lot of expansion on the inhale, so it helps to really emphasize that.
I always notice with yoga teachers, they have such beautiful posture. They're like dancers, you know. Their shoulders are always back and their chest is expanded.
I try.
It's great.
And then same thing on the other side. Just doing about 4 times.
It looks wonderful.
Yeah, it's a really great stretch for the upper back in between the shoulder blades.
Which
Another
we
place that
rarely
people
work.
hold a lot of tension.
Yep. Yeah, and it opens up the whole
Yeah.
chest and thoracic area,
Yeah.
which we're all constantly
Closed in.
curling over on our computers, curling up when we're sleeping.
Yeah.
So our positioning is such that we're always hunched over and
The
protecting
fetal
ourselves.
position. Yeah.
That's great. Okay.
The next pose, it has the same foot
Position.
placement, but this is going to be a forward fold. And what this does is it isolates the stretch on one side of the body. When we do it symmetrically, which is also good to do, one side just naturally takes over for the other side. So when we do it symmetrically, we're really asymmetrically, we're really isolating that side.
Great.
And usually what I do is I'll have somebody do one side first and then pause before doing the other side so that they can really feel the effects of the pose on that one side.
Okay.
So I'm going to start by inhaling my arms up. And then as I exhale, again, pulling the navel in, slightly bending the front knee, and forward folding, coming all the way over.
And that's important for Erin. She always stresses a slight bend to that knee because of the pressure on the back. It also, for people who don't have a good sense of balance, like if you've been away from something like this for a long time, it helps you to stay centered and balanced.
And when you inhale up, you want to come up with a flat upper back.
Notice how strong her back is. That's great.
And again, the inhalation is initiated by lifting the heart. So when you come up, you're initiated by lifting the heart, and that allows you to come up with a flat upper back.
Oh.
And then the right side. So again, I would have you pause,
Yes.
feel the effects, and then opposite
Position.
side.
Now, what about feet positions, Erin? This one is straight
the front
forward.
foot faces straight ahead. The back foot, maybe about a 15-degree angle.
Okay.
The back leg stays straight the entire time with the heel on the floor. Front knee is just a slight bend as you come over, just to release that hamstring a little bit and allow the low back to feel the stretch.
What if, like in the instance of certain men who are really tight in that whole hip flexor and that, upper quadrant of the thigh, what if that's too hard for them? Then they can
They
bend
could take
a
a
little?
shorter stance.
Okay. And bring the legs closer together so the pull isn't as
Right.
defined.
So you can try it with a little shorter stance here.
Okay. So adjust it to your body's flexibility. And when you hold these positions, it can become aerobic. I mean, if you're out of shape like I was when I started, it was like, I sweat.
Yeah.
And that's a good workout going. And the interesting thing about yoga is it's one of the 5 fingers of Ayurveda, which means that it is the mindfulness of the breath work and the body toning and stretching that keeps your body healthy and strong. That's wonderful. Erin, we have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
It goes very quickly, so let's pick a pose that you think would be marvelous.
Okay.
There's so many to choose from.
There are. There's another one that I like a lot. It's almost the same as that first one I did standing, except for that you're on your knee. And this, again, this helps to create a fixed element, so the knee is on the floor, and you're really able to get into that front hip flexor a little bit deeper. And this is another common problem that people have because we're constantly walking, so it's constantly being contracted and never really stretched.
Right.
Also, it helps, what happens is as it contracts, it kind of pinches, and then it puts a lot of pressure on the low back. The low belly is weak, and so that again creates this whole problem in through here.
Which is the number 1 area of concern in Americans.
Yeah.
It is in me.
Yeah, but
Tight
especially on the low back and sacrum. L5S1 is the most common injury.
Really? And repetitive just stretching and pulling can cause that just to finally just give out, right?
Right. So you want to strengthen it and
Stretch
it
Okay.
and alternate between the two.
So this is for your low back.
Low back, abdominals, hip
And
flexor.
so is, okay.
So I would start with the hands on the knee. Again, pulling the low belly in, tucking the tailbone under. And already right here I feel a stretch. And then as I inhale coming forward, I keep this tucked. Then I can feel a nice stretch here. If I relax, I can come a lot deeper, but I don't feel anything here.
Okay.
So keeping this tucked, inhaling coming forward, and then exhaling back.
Oh, that's a great stretch.
To deepen the stretch here, I would inhale my right arm forward and up, and this really brings the stretch all the way up to here.
Marvelous.
And coming back
You
down.
don't feel any pressure on your lower back doing that at all?
No, not if this stays tucked.
Not if you tighten your abs and
Right.
tuck it in. Okay. Such a simple pose with so much power.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
I'll do the other
That's
side real quick.
And always do the other side, right?
Yeah,
Always balance yourself out.
Right. So even if you're doing a pose asymmetrically, you want to do it symmetrically. So you want to do the
opposing
equal
side.
amount on both sides.
Right.
And then with the arm. Good. And then the last one, we're going to finish up on our backs.
Okay.
And I'm going to turn sideways.
Okay.
So we start the arms next to the body, and the heels come back just to touch the tips of the fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you want to, as you exhale, contract the abdominals, really press the low back into the floor and allow the pubic bone to rise. Then keeping this position of the pelvis, inhale, lifting the hips up off the floor, bringing the chest up towards the chin and lengthening the back of the neck. And stay here and exhale.
Watch your breath.
And then inhale the arms up.
What a great stretch.
And this really stretches the front side of the body.
That's wonderful. Erin, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up.
Okay.
So you should do that at least 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times, then I would hug the knees into the chest, making little circles with the knees, and then ending with Shavasana, which is a resting pose,
Okay.
for about 3 to 5 minutes.
Wonderful. Namaste.
Namaste.
This is 20 minutes of wonderful, simple, easy to do yoga poses. We hope this gets you started on your stretching program and taking good care of your health. Erin, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
This is wonderful. I'm going home to do this. And until next week, take good care of your health. If you need more information on how to get your hands on the tape that Erin just did for you, give me a jingle. I'll be happy to direct you. Take care. That was marvelous.